Today I'm going to tell you why I believe private high school education is more beneficial than a public school education. Many people argue that it is all about the child's individual work ethic and not the environment that you place them in. They say that a lazy child will be lazy no matter if they're in a public high school or a private high school. However, I'm here to tell you that I believe a private school education is much more beneficial to the child, not only academically, but with sports and in making the child a well-rounded individual. Academically, students who attend private high schools statistically do better on their SATs and attend more Ivy Leagues than someone who attends a public high school. While many people argue that this is because people who attend a private high school have a higher income and have more access to resources that would make them do better on the SATs, this is not true. In a study that Time magazine conducted, there's an article on the difference between private school education and public school education. And it actually showed that private schools do more to develop students' critical thinking abilities rather than the plain memorization required to do well on a standardized test. I personally believe that private schools hold their students to a higher standard. Because private schools do not have to meet a requirement on a standardized test to receive funding from the state, I believe that the private schools focus more on the well-rounded individual. I know that coming from California, I would hear stories of my friends who went to public schools who couldn't get books for that school year because of the lack of funding from the state. So not only is it the environment that the public schools create, but it's also the states that are failing our students. Also, because parents and children voluntarily choose to go to a private school and pay for it, I feel that there is a much more sense of pride and desire to be at the school. Coming from my own personal experience, I went to a private Catholic high school, and the sense of school pride was overwhelming. From a sports standpoint, private high school sports always seem to do better than public high schools. Within local New Jersey, private school Don Bosco Prep has won a large number of football national championships. From my own high school, we've had 2 Heisman Trophy winners and 3 starting USC quarterbacks, one of them being the most recent Max Wittek. Most of this is most certainly attributed to recruiting and scholarships. Now, while high schools aren't necessarily allowed to recruit, a private high school can boast a new computer lab or a new weight room that would attract these kind of high-profile athletes. Max Wittek actually transferred to my high school conveniently the year after Matt Barkley graduated, all the way from Connecticut. It made us all wonder how a kid from Connecticut could end up all the way from California for no other reason than football. My high school basketball team consistently won repetitive basketball championships, and there were kids on the team who lived over an hour away, but that would stay with local families during the week so that they could avoid a long commute because they were on a full-ride scholarship and did not have the means to drive that way to school every day. Because private schools have more boosters than public schools, this allows for scholarships to become available not only on an athletic basis, but on an academic basis as well. This way you can attract the best of both worlds. This then creates a cycle. If you create high-profile athletes that create a winning environment that wins national championships, then you achieve national recognition that will also attract the best academically. As seen many times, a winning athletic program is also a winning academic program. A school with proper funding and donors will create cutting-edge technology that will keep up with their national recognition. For example, the year after I graduated high school, my school gave each student an iPad in an effort to become more green and have all electronic books, and this was one of the first schools in the country to do so. Teachers developed their own apps for the class, and there was a school-wide security monitoring system in place that was very extreme but very necessary. It was actions like this that attract parents to send their children to schools like this because we are living in a world that is becoming more and more reliable on technology. Therefore, each parent would want their children to be immersed in this. As for being a well-rounded individual, I believe a private high school does a very good job. My freshman year, at a rally, the sophomores started to chant, "Go home, freshmen." None of us were offended because we thought this was simply the cycle. However, the next year, our class started the very same "Go home, freshmen" chant until it got a little out of place. Children were being bullied and picked on in the hallways, and the chant continued on even through the lunch period. The following day at school, each sophomore was assigned a freshman to write an apology letter to. Now, while not the whole entire sophomore class was involved in these certain incidents, we were all learning to take responsibility for our actions and to be courteous and respectful to anyone we saw. In conclusion, I'm not saying that a public school education is a horrible education, because I attend a public school now. I'm just saying that there are certain benefits to attending a private school, and that me personally, I would not take back my high school experience for anything.